great to have you here.
I had decided I wanted to get into events.
Don't rush into anything.
Left university and pretty much went straight into it.
It's just got to happen. So do what you need to make it happen.
I've never been one to follow rules.
We've spent a lot of time together, haven't we?
Yes, we have.
Always keeping up with trends and fads.
How do you manage that, the expectations versus the reality of budgeting?
It's always insightful to get a gauge as to what their reference point is with budget.
Pre-COVID, I didn't know what Zoom was.
You know, everything is done to a higher level.
That detail Jeremy and the band and the guys will go into, by definition, makes our life easier.
There's levels and levels, and that comes in the detail. Hello and welcome back to Season 2 of The Secret World Events. Today I'm joined by my very good friend Jamie Paskin. Now, for those that don't know Jamie is what was once termed as a Toastmaster, but we like to refer to him as the voice. Jamie, welcome along.
Thank you, Gavin. Thank you for having me.
Since I started planning The Secret World of Events, you were always a guest who we were going to bring along. So, chuffed to have you with us. Jamie, where did it start for you in events?
It started at least 25, 30 years ago in the world of nightclubbing.
Okay, that would have made you about 6. How old are you now?
42.
You're 42? Wow, the years have rolled on. Because
The
I've
years have
probably known you for
rolled on.
12 years now, 12,
At
13
least,
years.
at least, yeah. I've been Toastmastering for 12 to 13 years.
Yeah.
And,
So it starts, so just to
of
wind you
course.
back, it started in the world of nightclubbing.
Nightclubbing, that's where it all started off, my love of the events world and entertainment world. When we were clubbing as kids, going to all the nightclubs, lining up outside, I was like, I'm not having any of this lining up. I need to be at the front. I need to be knowing the people.
Yeah.
So once we finally got into the nightclubs and I started to get very friendly with all the door people and I started to promote the nightclubs and do all the guest lists. And that's kind of where it all started for me.
Okay, so nobody rolls out of bed one day and says, I think I'd like to be a Toastmaster.
Absolutely not.
But you've made a real career out of it. I know a lot of Toastmasters out there, and just to explain, maybe for some of our international viewers who perhaps don't have a toast or don't know what a Toastmaster is, because it's quite a British thing.
Absolutely.
It's a master of
Especially London,
ceremonies.
I'd say, yeah.
Well, how would you describe it?
Master of ceremonies, a host, a compere, the voice of an event.
Yeah. Most of the Toastmasters I know, for them, it's another job on top of what they do in a professional capacity. But you've made a full-time career out of it.
That was the plan. But it wasn't the plan when I initially started.
Talk me through it.
So we're going back at least 15 years now. One of my best friend's wedding abroad. I was best man. 2 weeks before the wedding, give me a call. Jamie, can you be the MC for my wedding? I was like, are you being serious? It's in 2 weeks' time. He goes, absolutely. He goes, it's very relaxed. He goes, you'll work with a wedding planner out there. You need to make some announcements. You've got a personality. You've got a voice. I believe in you. When your best friend says that to you, what do you say? Okay.
Yeah, so you got on and done it, and that was the start of your career.
That was it. That was the start of the career. Got a few videos back on Facebook, as one does. Had a few people within our industry come to me and say, you found your calling in life. You need to give this a go. And straight away, when I heard that word Toastmaster, my whole imagination with this older gentleman in a red jacket. And I was like, that's not me as a person.
Yeah.
And I completely dismissed the idea, got back home, back into my job. At that point, I was in property, wasn't very happy. A few weeks later, had a call off one of these guys. Well, how's the Toastmaster training going? And I was like, no, absolutely not happening.
So is that something you would have had to do, is Toastmaster training?
Yeah, full-on training.
There's a school?
Well, there's not an official school, but there's Toastmasters out there who do training sessions.
Okay.
And I think to kind of know the basics, to go out there and do it, I think you need to kind of understand where it all starts from and a bit of the history.
Well, then I'm going to take you right back to that place.
Let's go.
What does it take to be a Toastmaster? What are you taught?
Okay, so I found a Toastmaster who was a younger guy at the time, and he is still quite a young guy. And he came over to my house one day and had a little chit chat with me, and I was recommended to him by other people in our industry. And he came over to the house and he had a chit chat with me, and he kind of gave off this bit of a weird impression, as in, like, I wasn't too sure, I wasn't getting a vibe from it. He kind of went away. Week later, comes back. He goes, I didn't want to blow smoke up you, but you're going to be an amazing Toastmaster because I can see you've got a great personality and you're hungry for this and you're passionate for it. And then the rest is history. We spent 8 months. He came over to my house probably once, twice a week for 8 months, and he wrote a like school of Toastmastering.
Yeah, a little Bible for you.
A little Bible for me. And kind of each week we touched on slightly different subjects. And a lot of it goes back to kind of the correct to Brett's forum. So it was all those sorts of books, the right pronunciations, you know, if you've got lords or ladies, that sort of people in the room. So it all goes back to the history of Toastmastering, where the red jacket came from, why there's a red jacket.
Well, I'm going to ask you that.
Why is there a red jacket?
Why is there a red jacket, Jamie? If you don't know the answer, we'll skip past
wrong.
this. Yeah.
It goes back to the day of huntsmen.
Right.
So when you saw a huntsman on a horse in the forest with a red jacket, they were in red jackets because you could see them through the forest.
Right.
And that's why a Toastmaster wears a red jacket.
So at an event, we can spot you a mile away.
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay, amazing.
That's why we have red jackets.
They also had black jackets as well.
Correct.
Not dinner suits, but they had black tails.
Yes. And I think the main reason why the black tails is there, it's just a more modern version of it. So some clients won't want a Toastmaster in red, so the black is the option.
Back in the day, there was like a guild of Toastmasters, wasn't there?
There is still plenty of guilds of Toastmasters.
Is there really?
There's schools, there's guilds. I was invited to be part of one of these guilds many years ago, and I went along to a meeting, and it was
Realised you were the youngest person there by 40 years?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I kind of went along, and it was an interesting conversation. You know, you're welcome to be part of this kind of whole school of it all. And I walked out there, I was like, this is just not me.
Well, you're a younger generation, aren't you? And you're still a younger generation, but you're vastly experienced. You've had sort of, 12, 13 years of full time.
Yeah, 12, 13 years of full time.
But it's not just about ladies and gentlemen. Take your seats for dinner. Tell me the real skill set.
For me, I say to people, I say to people, for me, the whole announcements is the easiest part of my job. You know, what you're booking me for is to look after your event, to hold your event together. As I say, my strapline is to Toastmaster is the glue that holds together any event, irrespective of size or nature.
Yeah.
So I'm working across the board with all of the suppliers, and a lot of the work I do, I believe, is behind the scenes, where a client won't physically see what I do, unless they're kind of watching and keep their eyes glued to me throughout the evening.
So I'm a client.
Yeah.
Give me a pitch. Why do I need you?
You need me to string your event together, to make sure it flows, to make sure it works with everything. So I will be that focal point throughout the whole event, working with every single supplier. And if you come to me, but Jamie, I've got an amazing wedding planner, I've got a load of event people on my team, why do I still need you?
The man in the band can do the announcing.
Yeah, absolutely. Things like that.
So why do I still need you, Jamie?
Because I'm the glue. And I will hold that event together. I will be the person who will be speaking to all of your suppliers throughout the day. So where your caterers might be in the kitchen concentrating on the food, the band is concentrating on the music, and so on and so forth, I'm there working and speaking with everybody just to make sure everything happens. For example, the videographer, Jamie, I'm going to go and take a break. No, you're not taking a break. We've got speeches in 5 minutes. So it's just making sure everything is coming together at the right time.
I'd just like to say that in 12 years, I don't think we've ever walked up to you and said, Jamie, we're taking a break.
Not you personally.
But what I would say, Jamie, is where I think your skill sets are invaluable, and just to maybe expand upon what you're saying, is that you are the person who comes and taps us on the shoulder and says, guys, we're 5 minutes delayed on a speech. We're just clearing the main courses and be ready in 5 minutes.
Absolutely correct.
And for me, having a Jamie Paskin at any event that we're at is invaluable to the running of the evening, because I would have thought that many people overlook the fact that they need a Toastmaster. Maybe sometimes, like all things, there's budgets,
of course,
and there's things to consider, but for me, it's actually very important. And I don't think maybe our watching viewers and listening audience maybe understands, just what an important role you play.
No, I appreciate that. And you're right about the tapping on the shoulder. And it's not just that, it's the tapping on the shoulder just to give you that extra bit of information. For example, if we've got a certain speech is happening in a different area, it's to give you that 5 minutes ahead to make sure your cameras are set up and ready to roll.
Yeah.
So it's all those little bits and pieces.
And also the other thing is, people don't see what goes on behind the closed doors. They're front of house, they're sitting down, they're having a beautiful dinner at any of these events. And in the kitchen, perhaps, a speech is overrun and you're having to tell the kitchen, guys, the speech has gone from 10 minutes on our time plan to now being 25. That's also part of your role, isn't it?
That's probably the biggest part. And that happens on a regular basis. And as you well know, within our world, we are live events. Anything can happen at any time. There might be power cuts, which regularly happens. I go into the kitchen, we've got the bands on stage, they're doing a dance set. They're due to finish in 5 minutes. Main course is coming out. I've run into the kitchen. I've asked Chef, are we ready to go? 5 minutes time. Chef's turned around to me and says, Toastmaster, we need another 15 minutes. I've had a slight problem. Then that's me going to the band, getting them to play for an extra 10 minutes and making the whole thing seamless for obviously when they come off stage, main course is served and guests don't even know there was a problem behind the scenes.
Yeah. In terms of where your business comes from, is it like a referral? Are you passed from one client to the next?
It's probably a mix, but definitely word of mouth and referrals. But obviously over the years, the people have got to know me. The inquiries are coming in direct. But then obviously, I work with an array of amazing event planners out there and other professionals, and I get recommendations from everybody.
In terms of the sort of different types of events you do, because I would always associate a Toastmaster with
A wedding.
What other types of events do you take care of?
I do all sorts of things. So bar and bat mitzvahs, private parties, big birthday parties. I've done a lot of hosting recently, a lot of presenting recently. So it's kind of just developing and, I take anything that comes my way. But the biggest thing for me is I don't want to be known as that just red jacket Toastmaster on stage. So I like to say, look, we've got the voice there, okay? So I do a lot of voice of God work where people don't even see me and I'm sat in a booth reading off a script and working with a show caller.
What about the charity side of things? Charity work?
Yes. As you well know, I do a lot of charity work. I love doing charity work. For me, it's my way of giving back to the community. And thank God over the years, I've got involved with a lot of really big charities. And what I love about a charity is, especially when you get involved with a good charity, they use you a lot. There's that relationship you build with these charities. And I love doing charity work. We've worked on some fantastic
We have.
charity
I was actually going to
events
mention one because you do a fantastic job for Future Dreams on the boxing side of things. Tell us about that. To explain what the Future Dreams Fight Night is.
So Future Dreams Fight Night is an incredible evening of white-collar boxing, all in, it's all raised for an amazing charity, which is Future Dreams, and that is a breast cancer charity who are very close to my heart. And you and I have been working with Future Dreams since day dot, really, haven't we?
Day one.
And they are on to they've done their 4th night. We've got our 5th fight night coming up next March, I believe.
But it's very professionally done.
Very professionally done.
Sky Sports are there.
Sky Sports, Adam Smith we have, and it's just an incredible evening. It really feels like you're at the O2 or something. We've had big bands bringing out the boxers on stage. We've got all the lights. We've got everything.
And you're the ringmaster there,
I'm the ringmaster, yes. So my job at that event is the voice, but I kind of work with Adam Smith and, all the other guys from Sky Sports because they are the ones who interview the boxers and do that side because that's what they're professional for. But I'm kind of the in-between sort of thing. So when we're doing the auction, when obviously we've got, people coming up and making speeches, so I'm introducing them.
Yeah.
And I just love it.
What's the best part of your day when you're Toastmastering?
I think probably one of the best parts of my day is coming towards the end of formalities for a wedding or an event and kind of sitting back and watching everyone just having a great time and it all kind of just, unfolding and just making it work. Another thing which I love it when I get a bride and groom and all their family down an aisle for a wedding for their procession. And it's kind of just all gone perfectly.
I mean, we've completely overlooked that, but you're in charge of the procession, aren't you?
Absolutely, yeah.
Pretty much.
Getting everybody down the aisle at the right time to the right music.
Does that take a lot of sort of meeting time prior? Is that how you work with your clients? Is it?
Yeah, every single wedding and every single event that I do, I will always try and like to have a face-to-face meeting with all of my clients. I like to discuss their whole event. What their expectations are, what they want out of me. Is there anything that they don't want happening? Every client is individual. Every client is different. And they've all got their own ways and what they kind of
What's the strangest request you've had?
I think some of the strangest requests I've had, maybe some bar mitzvahs, probably to wear certain different outfits.
Oh, yes. You have
because
to get
I put
dressed up.
myself out there as that versatile MC host. So if you have a themed party and you want me to be part of that theme, I will gladly be part of that.
So
thing.
if they were doing The Greatest Showman, they might get you to dress up.
And I have been a Greatest Showman plenty of times. I've been a racing driver a few times.
Have you? Nobody's asked you to be like Super Mario Brothers? Or...
No, not yet.
Right, okay.
But you never know, right?
You never know.
You never know.
Our creative friends in the event planning community, if you can think of something amazing for Jamie to dress up in.
I'm game. You know I'm game. I'll dress up as pretty anything.
You're always
within
game.
reason.
In terms of the amount of work you do, are you sort of out every week? Are you out 3 times a week? How does it fill out
I would
for you?
definitely say that I'm out at least once to twice a week, sometimes 3-4 times a week. You know, it just depends on how the diary goes. Thank God weddings and the private parties are always every week throughout the whole year. You generally tend to find the charity sector is a certain part of the year, as with corporate events. So, yeah.
How would you say a successful event is measured for you?
That everything is run on time and the client has got everything they've wanted out of their event. Because when we are running to tight time schedules, there's a lot of things that need to happen, whether it's speeches, whether it's an auction, for example, but also there's party and there's dancing, and clients are spending a lot of money on all of their, say, entertainment and their suppliers, and they want the most of everything. So if I can finish an event where I know that they've had the most of everything that they've wanted, dancing, food, speeches, without everything being rushed, then I feel it's a successful event.
What do you think, how do you cope with adversity during an event? Now, it wouldn't necessarily be down to you. There's a lot of pressure on suppliers for lots of different things, but ultimately, you're the person they're going to turn to. How do you cope with that?
Calmness. I get a lot of clients saying, you bring a very calming energy to the event, which is quite interesting because when a lot of people just know me, my personality, it's not necessarily a calming personality, but when I'm there, people say, you've actually calmed me down, you've made me feel relaxed. And if there's tension between other suppliers, which happens quite a lot, I feel like I'm that medium guy to come in and say, okay, guys, let's just relax and we're going to get this sorted, you know?
One of the biggest roles I see you play, which I'm most grateful for, and I certainly know speaking to all of the photographers, is during the photo call for families. Tell everybody about your role that you play there. So we'll set the scene. The wedding ceremony has just happened, and it's time for the photographer to get together all sides of the family for the list of photographs, and you step in. What role do you play there?
So let's just rewind a bit. It's an interesting thing you should say that, because that's one big thing of my meetings with all my clients that I discuss quite a bit. And even though I'm not the photographer, I know how important and how tight that hour roughly we have, because it's not just an hour worth of portrait shots with the families. We've obviously got to then allow the photographer to go off with the couple and have their own individual shots, all before dinner is called and guests come into the room.
Yeah.
So the way I deal with that is I will always try to explain to my clients to try and keep that list as short as you possibly can, and then make sure you have told both sides of your family where you need to be and what you need to do. And a big thing what I try and do is I actually take the immediate family, once the ceremony has finished, I take them off to where the actual photo call is going to be. I make sure the photo call starts, and obviously there's lots of photographers we work with and everyone's got their own style, but I will always try and be on hand with that list and try and call out the groups and make it easy
You're
for
a
the
fabulous
photographer.
asset to an event, Jamie.
Thank you.
Across the board. For those of you who are having or planning to have a wedding or a special event, I really would recommend, and I don't say this about everybody that comes on the podcast, but I really would recommend, having a good look and a chat with Jamie and or any other Toastmaster, to be quite honest with you, because so unlike video photography where we could probably put out a couple of teams on a day, there's only one of you.
Yeah.
So I would imagine dates become at a premium. Especially
Absolutely.
for wedding season.
Yeah, absolutely. Happens all the time. And that is probably one of the things I don't like about what I do is just me. So once that date is booked, that's it. That's it. There is nothing else I can do. I can't split myself into two teams. So yeah, they do come at a premium. And as you know, there are certain dates within a calendar which are very popular dates. And, thank God over the years I'm getting booked well in advance for those dates now.
Now, this is the secret world of events.
It is.
We always like to be very nice and open and transparent. Jamie, how much does it cost to book your services, let's say, for a wedding?
Okay, so if you are booking me for a full-day wedding, you are looking at anything in the region between £875 to £1,000.
Okay, and can I ask you what the difference is in the £125? What extra is there, or is it just about the hours?
It may be roughly just about the hours, for example, also depending on sometimes the location.
Yes.
You know, maybe parking, maybe congestion charge might be involved, you know, maybe a long drive, you know, just that sort of thing, really.
Yeah. Amazing. What is the most interesting thing you've ever seen at an event you've been at?
One thing I want to add, with obviously me being a Toastmaster, what I've also kind of developed and evolved over the last few years is a lot of planners are now booking me as a freelance event manager, because essentially I am an event manager with a voice. So I'm now getting booked a lot of the time to be freelance. So where I come into an event and I'm part of a team of event planners and I'm helping people out. So I'm not necessarily the Toastmaster at an event or the voice of an event. I'm an extra pair of hands because of the way I can kind of control things and help out on the day. So, you know, there's a few events recently that I've been part of, and you know, that have just blown my mind, you know, some of these events.
Do you want to talk about any of them?
I did a particular event last year abroad in a country in Europe, and it was a very, very special wedding.
Jamie, so we're talking about the wedding that we did together in Lake Como.
We are talking about that wedding.
Yeah, there's no secrets here.
There is no secrets.
We can get it all out.
We are talking about that wedding, and as you know, I was brought on by the wedding planner to be Dream Events, to be part of that team, and thank God they bring me on quite a bit now, which we've got a really good relationship, and it's a very understandable relationship where sometimes I will be there as the voice, sometimes I will be there as an extra pair of hands. But that event blew me away, because for me it's all about seeing things out of the ordinary. Yeah. And that was pretty out of the ordinary.
What you get to learn from those type of events, and we've done many over the years, is the logistics.
Yes.
What goes on behind the scenes. People think that you go to a beautiful wedding in Lake Como or any destination, and it looks pretty, it's gorgeous, there's sunshine, but actually they are the hardest slogs terms of work, the amount of steps you do a day. If you've got one of those watches where you look at your steps.
That day, the actual event day on that event, I think that was my record. I think I hit 29,000 steps that day.
Yeah, and there's all the walkers in the world going, that's not very much.
Yeah, I know, yeah.
But when you're only walking, 50 yards or it's, absolutely.
But what I gained from that is just experience that you can't get anywhere else.
Yeah.
Because you're seeing stuff which is just...
Well, that's the trust people put in you, Jamie, don't they?
Yeah.
To bring you on when you're not.
And that's the big word, trust. And I think that's something that I have definitely. People can see that in me now, and people know that with me. There's that trust factor.
Yeah.
Where people are booking me.
One of the questions I ask everybody who comes on to the Secret World of Events is 3 top tips for creating a successful event. When you sit and talk to your clients, what advice do you give them on their parties?
Book a good Toastmaster.
Okay.
No, I'm joking. On a serious note, it's a case of, for me, stick within your budget. A lot of people have these wild ideas out there, and everyone's got a different budget, and that's not a problem. And I say to people, just, work with your budget. I think that's a really important thing. I think people sometimes get a bit carried away, and it's unnecessary to get carried away.
Yeah.
Number 2, I would say, pick your suppliers wisely. It does help when you are on a job and we all know each other as suppliers. I definitely believe that adds value to the job and the event, because once we all know each other and we understand how each other work, I think it's a much smoother event. Number 3, I'm not sure.
Well, I would say enjoy the event.
Of course. Sit back and relax.
Because one of the things, especially when we go for wedding meetings, more so than anything else, I'll always take time to speak to the bride and groom and say, hey, try and take a moment within your evening to almost step back.
Definitely.
Because it runs past so quickly and everybody wants something from you. You get married, you come into the room, you do your dancing, you're then sitting at a table, but you're not really sitting down to eat because you're busy running around all the tables to see all your guests. Take a moment to sort of step out of yourselves, look into the room and look at everything that you've
and to the parents as well,
betting
on the event. Absolutely. It does go by in a flash. Those 6-7 hours, is gone before you know it.
Yeah.
I was at the Sheraton Park Lane the other day, and I said to my clients, go upstairs on the balcony there and just overlook everything and just take a moment.
Yeah. Another thing that I advise clients to do, and once again, it does go back to weddings, is I always recommend that they order some room service prior, so they know when they come back to the room, because most brides and grooms, generally speaking, do not eat or drink.
No.
Make sure someone's got some paracetamol in a handbag just in case, but the adrenaline takes over. You don't tend to eat.
No.
And when you get back to your room after, you're famished.
Absolutely. And all they want is normally a burger and chips or a club sandwich or something.
Absolutely, something gorgeous, lovely. Let me talk about competition, because
Okay.
I would imagine it's quite a collaborative world in the space of Toastmastering. If you can't cover a job, are there other people, friends that you put forward, because it's
Absolutely.
one person, one day? Yeah,
Absolutely. I believe the Toastmaster world, in my little world of it, there's about 6 of us who are kind of regulars on the circuit, and we actually all friends. We all know each other. We occasionally try and go out for a dinner, for a lunch, and have a chit chat. We obviously all pass on work. I think the biggest thing with a Toastmaster is someone is buying into your personality. So of course, if someone is wanting to book me and I'm not available, a lot of the time, when I recommend someone else, they say, but is there someone young like you? Is there someone modern like you? And unfortunately, there's not a load of me out there. There are a few, but it's a case of, saying to that client, look, who I'm going to introduce you to, they may not be as young and modern as me, but they're going to do an amazing job. They've been doing it for a long time and they're professionals in the industry. So I wouldn't say it's like
Jamie, in about 10 years' time, you're not going to be so young, my friend.
I know I'm not, but as long as I keep on shaving and use the Nivea, I'll be okay.
Because it comes around very quickly.
I know it does.
All of a sudden, you'll have the red jacket back on.
No.
You'll have the big
the big medal down there.
big medal down the middle.
The grey hair's coming.
Is that coming already?
Yeah, it's there already, but we're good with the grey hair.
Jamie, it's been an absolute pleasure having you join me
Gavin,
today.
thank you so much for having me.
Pleasure. If you've enjoyed this episode of the Secret World Events, please don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll see you on the next one. Great to have you here.
I had decided I wanted to get into events.
Don't rush into anything.
Left university and pretty much went straight into it.
It's just got to happen. So do what you need to make it happen.
I've never been one to follow rules.
We've spent a lot of time together, haven't we?
Yes, we have.
Always keeping up with trends and fads.
How do you manage that? The expectations versus the reality of budgeting?
It's always insightful to get a gauge as to what their reference point is with budget.
Pre-COVID, I didn't know what Zoom was.
Everything is done to a higher level.
That detail Jeremy and the band and the guys will go into, by definition, makes our life easier.
There's levels and levels, and that comes in the detail.